My dad's making it hurt.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm joined by the legend himself. I got Rob Mendoza on. I already got him smiling, laughing. Rob, welcome to the show, brother. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, dude. I laugh. I don't think I've ever been referenced as a legend, so
Dude, all right, before we get into this, I gotta ask you something. Were you ever interested in like the WWF or WWE growing up as a kid?
Dude, this face has been in the Bushwhackers' armpits. WWF back in the day.
There we go. So you know exactly where I'm going to go with this then. So have you ever been to a live event? Obviously being in the Bushwhackers armpit, yeah. So this past evening, or last evening, I should say, I took my daughter to her second ever event, and it was here in State College, Pennsylvania. I took her a couple years ago when Eric was when he was still wrestling for the Vikings and everything. I messaged him through social media and everything, and he was repping Tethrd and all that type of stuff, and he knew I was involved with Tethrd, and he's like, dude, I'm going to be in State College. I was like, oh man, my daughter would love to come see. And at that point in time, she was like 7, and she would watch it a little bit, but she didn't really grasp it. And for me, dude, kind of like you said, I grew up with it. Like I was like, my older sister's 9 years older than me. I would grab her by the hair and jump off the top rope, quote unquote, of my couch and like slam her down, drop kick her, throw her in a sharpshooter, like give her, like just go ham on her. Yeah, give her the sharpshooter, all that stuff. And so, but the last couple months, my daughter, who's now 9, we've been either like on a Monday night or a Friday night, but then the next day we would, if she would fall asleep or something along those lines, we recap of Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and we watched the pay-per-views. She's gotten really into it, which is fantastic, right? It's wonderful to have this little bond with her. So I take her last night because she loves Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, who is Dusty Rhodes' son. And I got her a shirt, and so she's wearing that. We get there, and we're like 3rd or 4th row. And after his match, well, first off, he comes out to his theme song, like she's singing it. She made a sign, a homemade poster for him, and you know, he gets up to the steps and he's pointing in the crowd, and I have the video. He's in our direction pointing. Well, bless her little heart, man. Like he takes off his jacket, and I look at her, and she's bawling. I'm like, Nora, what's the matter, honey? She's like, he pointed at me. Right. It's like, you know, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like she can't even like collect herself. So the match starts. He wins in this street fight against Damian Priest. And as at the end of it, he says a couple words because it was the intermission in the show, and he ends up walking around. He goes, I'm going to sign some autographs, take some photos. I'm going to do my best to get to everybody that I can. Just know they'll probably be kicking me out because I love to interact with everybody, you guys, blah, blah, blah. So we quick run 5 feet up to the barricade. I pick her up, and she's holding her sign, and he's starting to work his way down towards us. And he's like, she's yelling, Cody, 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 Cody. And he almost like walked past us. And I just I look at her because she turned to look at me and do like, it was like this, like, oh my gosh, he's ignoring me, or like he bypassed us. Like, what are we going to do? Like just disappointment on her face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have like scream at this dude. And he ends up I don't know what made him do it, but he looked back at us. He smiles at Nora and he goes, hey, sweetie. And he rips the poster out of her hand and he signs it and he gives it back to her. And dude, she just like, again, full of emotions, starts bawling her eyes out. I'm like, this is, you know, and she literally was like, this is the best night of my life. I'm like, okay, this is a great moment. This is like dad of the year. Here we go. It was a good show. So I knew you know, if you liked wrestling as a kid, you would appreciate something like that.
You put yourself in her position, and it's like, imagine the disappointment she would have felt if he did just walk by, versus like the exact opposite end of the spectrum, like how psyched she had to have been. Like, not only did he point at me, But he grabbed my sign, signed it, like,
Yeah.
this is the best night.
Yeah, I know.
I hope my daughter is that cool that she like pretty cool right now, so I wouldn't be surprised. But
Yeah, that's awesome. So, all right, one more question for you to go squirrel on before we dive into some awesome stuff with you, brother. So obviously letting the cat out of the bag a little bit, but obviously you're the man behind the camera when it comes to filming for Tethrd and doing a bunch of their content creation, which obviously means you're out on the road a lot. The holiday season, Christmas is right around the corner. What do you get the misses to make up for all that time away when you're like, hey, honey, I got to go out to Indiana to go film a hunt right now? And she thought she was able to maybe go have her spa day that you probably promised her during the fall. So what's the makeup Christmas gift that you're getting the misses?
spa day is definitely on the list. Yeah, I just sent her on a trip to Vegas with her mom, so
There
she
you
had
go.
fun out there. And I watched the kids, which put like her job into perspective. I had no idea. I was like, oh, parenting, my role, dad role, pretty easy. How hard can mom's role be? And after 3 or 4 days, I was like, please, I'm ready for you to come home. This is insane. And then, you know, like the run of the mill jewelry, clothes, cool stuff.
Yeah, stuff to make them happy. I know that's I had to ask that one just because I was like, man, Rob's gone a lot, you know.
Oh,
You know, like when I would think you wouldn't be gone or needed to be gone, I'd be like, I talked to Jared or somebody's like, oh yeah, Rob's here. I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude is just going ham this fall.
it was insane. It was definitely, I don't even know how many days I was on the road, but it was a lot, I think. Let me think real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I was in 7 or 8 different states hunting or filming hunting this season. And it was just back to back. It is, dude. It's awesome. It's a grind. And I'm a little bit newer to the hunting industry, obviously. So it was like my dream. Like, how can I get into the industry? Sometimes I'll catch myself kind of taking that for granted, like, oh, this is a grind. And then I realize, like, this is exactly what I signed up for. So a million people would trade spaces with me. So really just trying to be thankful for the opportunities that I get to be out there on the road.
Yeah,
Even
heck yeah.
Family, you know, it can suck, dude. You got kids.
Yep.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
You just gotta make up for the time when you are home. That's like my motto.
Oh, dude, that's well said, because I know, you know, I used to hear talking to other individuals, you know, in the past, the last couple of years that have been doing this a lot longer than we have combined and all that type of stuff. And, you know, they would always say they would hear like these horror stories, but you know, sometimes when those guys like in your position that travel a lot, that have families, it was like the opposite. They would not. It's just they're just one track mind, like so goal oriented, and it's just deer, hunting, and it's like, where's your family time, right? And I like that you just said, you know, hey, you got to make the most of it when you are home. And shit, man, like even like when I was coaching a lot, right? So it was I would fall into that rut where it's like, dude, your daughter hasn't seen you all day, and I might come home and she might be sleeping, but then in the next morning I got to be there for her before we go off to school for that 45 minutes, right? You know what I mean? Like, even though it's 45 minutes, but I got to be game on, all focused on her. And, you know, thank goodness those times have changed, and I'm home a lot more, and I'm able to kind of make up for those lost years. I kind of tell myself, so, you know, they're only young once, brother.
And like the hunting industry, that's my dream. You know what I mean? Like, my kid doesn't care. Well, my kids don't care if I'm an electrician, they don't care what I'm doing for work. So the hunting thing is for me. For them, they need me around. Like, they need me 100% present when I'm there, which gets exhausting. You know what I mean? Like, you go out, you're on the road, you come home, and it's not like downtime. You're like right into dad mode, just trying to create like the best childhood you possibly can for your kids, even though you know in like 4 or 5 days you're going to be gone for another week.
Yeah. So let's dive into this, Rob. Like, give an introduction, I guess, of like who you are now, right? Like what your role is now, obviously with Tethrd, and how in the world did you get to where you are today, basically?
How many minutes is this podcast?
Let it rip, brother.
It'd be a long one. So right now I just got promoted. I am the content manager for Tethrd. I started about a year ago. Yeah, literally like almost exactly a year ago. And funny enough, so you see a lot of hunting companies, they're doing like the internships.
Mm-hmm.
I had just gotten licensed to be an exterminator, like moved to New York, gotten licensed to be an exterminator. I had been shooting photos, doing video stuff like for myself and for my buddies for a while. And then that internship came up and I was just like, oh man, like that would be pretty cool. So I sent in all my credentials and like information and some links to some videos, and about a month went by and I was like, oh, probably better off. You know, I got this job. I got my son. My girlfriend's pregnant with our second kid. Like, probably better off that I'm not on the road for 100 days. And like literally within minutes, I get a call and it's Greg Godfrey. Hey, Rob, this is Greg Godfrey. How are you? And my heart sank. I'm like, oh, is this really happening right now? Like, are you about to tell me that I got in on this internship? And that's exactly what he said. He said, you know, I know you got a family, but we're going to need you for 100 days on the road. Because originally, I think I was going to go on the tagged out tour, kind of help with that. And I just said, I can be the dad who complained that having a family is what kept him from his dream, or I can grind and make some sacrifices right now. And I'll be the dad that like showed his kids, hey, follow to your dream. You never know, it could work out. And in my case, it did work out, which was, I mean, it's literally the best thing that's probably ever happened to me outside of my family. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome, man, dude. So you got the internship, you did all that, and then how did you end up like sticking around? Just because, you know, I've obviously in a whole different world, there's people that do student teaching, right? You do a student teaching at a high school and there could be a job that opens up. And sometimes if you obviously do a really good job, you slide right in there. So obviously something along those lines had to pertain to you.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like, you can teach somebody how to use a camera, right? And we did. The two other interns I was working with had held like their phone cameras before, and we turned them into like pretty good filmers, pretty good photographers for how long they had been doing it. But what you can't teach people is like how to get along, right? And if you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole or whatever that saying is, like, not always gonna, you know, it's not gonna be that success story. Luckily enough, like everybody that I met at Tethrd, my first hunt was with Ernie, then I had a hunt with Carl, then Jared, and then Greg out in North Dakota. So I got to meet all these guys, like the whole crew, and every single one of them was just like so down to earth, so cool that it almost made me like even more motivated to try to get in with the company. Because like, would I have gotten in with a company that maybe I didn't think the guys were as cool? Like, yeah, that would have been my foot in the door. But it just so happened like these guys, everything lined up with who I am, like their moral codes, their ethics, what the company's about. And I think because we got along so well, it was just kind of like, by the end of it, I almost felt like I already had the job.
Yeah.
Funny enough, though, when they called me, I had just bought a house in New York, and they're like, hey, we need you to move down for this job. You have like a month. And there was just absolutely no way I could do it. And I remember I got off the phone. My girlfriend was standing next to me, like so excited. And I was just like, I wanted to be celebratory, but at the same time, I was just like, I don't think that I can make this happen. And I ended up having to call him a few days later and be like, I really appreciate the offer, but like, I can't just up and move. I literally just closed on this house before hunting season started. Yeah. And I was crushed. I was like, oh my God, that was my chance. And I, you know, like,
yeah,
sinking feeling. Well, about a month later, I get another call from Val and from Taylor Chamberlain, like, hey, do you got a minute to hop on a call? And they ended up offering me a job where I actually get to work from my home here in New York, eventually making my way down to Tennessee and just hit the ground running. They literally like created a position for me, and
that's awesome.
I cannot explain how thankful I am for that.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, just to kind of toot your horn just for 30 seconds, you know, I've obviously worked with you for the past year and got a chance to know you, and we've had our phone calls, we've had our video calls, man. I really appreciate the work that you do put in, and obviously you do a great job, and it's easy to work with you and get along. So like you said, man, it's awesome, and I'm happy for you. And I think it's something where I respect people that really follow their dreams and make those sacrifices and still obviously above all put their family first. And I think it also should go to a credit towards Tethrd too. Like they know how to treat people with, you know, and making sure not only you as the individual and respect you, but also your family. And I think obviously that's a kudos to everybody at Tethrd as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's like, I don't think people realize how many employees are at Tethrd. And like, it's not a huge company, but for like a company that's only 5 years old, I think we have just over 30 employees, and all of us know each other. Like we go into Tennessee, like people are hanging out. We do this big like celebratory bash called Tallywag every year where all the employees get together, and it's just one big party, dude. Like everybody's so tight with each other. And I know a lot of companies, not just in the hunting industry, I'm sure just like in any industry, are like, oh, well, we pride ourselves in being a family, but those dudes are real about it. Like, if
no
you're,
doubt.
you are family.
Yeah, no doubt. So here's, we were just kind of going over, you talked about it could have been in 8 to 9 states, whether it was like filming or from actually hunting. You know, were you filming more this year or were you hunting more this year? What do you think?
I think I was filming more than I was hunting. I still got to get out a lot. Like I'm obsessed with hunting. People are like, oh, like that's cool that you get to do what you love, like you're filming. And I'm like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm a hunter first and foremost. Like I haven't been doing, I'm new to hunting too, but something about it just struck a chord with me. And since 2017, when I first went on my first bow hunt out in Colorado, it's just been like,
well, that's good. So how'd you get here, man? Like, how'd you get there in that hunting thing? Like you said, because I know you used to be in the skating world and all that type stuff. So like, how did you go from, and this is the funny part. Like, so those that don't know the story, my high school kids always laugh because they always like, yo, Mr. D, what were you like when you were my age? I was like, oh man, like I always, and it's funny because I'm always truthful with them. I'm like, I was an angry kid, man. I was like, my parents were divorced. I lived with my grandparents. I hunted with my dad growing up for a long time, and I like at one point when I was a senior, I resented him because I'm like, all I into is like a hunting buddy. Like I remember yelling that to him at one time, and like now hindsight's 2020. I wrote an article about that on Antler Up Pod or on the website when we launched this years ago, but you know, and I'm always like, man, I was a lead singer of a hardcore punk band. I played varsity, dude. I played varsity sports, football, baseball. You name it, dude. Like, you know, so like you have this person that was a letter winner, you know, in athletics, but then was rocking tight jeans with a studded belt, hair long, and then on the weekends just screaming his head off in a microphone, right? Like and I skate, you know, I was in that skateboarding, but I obviously hunted. Like hunting was still obviously a huge part of my life still, even up until that point. So dude, how did you get to where you were from a couple years ago to 2017 getting into hunting?
all right, so Rob's journey. I'm from Syracuse, New York, city in central New York. I grew up in the city, did not grow up in the woods. Went to a high school with no windows. Like it was an inner city, like that movie Lean on Me. That was kind of like the school that I went to. And you know, not to take anything away from that, it was just a completely different environment from where I find myself today. And what I got into was skateboarding early on, and that was huge. Like just like the hunting bug bit me, like skateboarding gave me something to just focus on. I played baseball, I played team sports when I was younger, but there was something about the fact that like I had to rely on myself in skateboarding to get ahead. And I think anybody who like skateboards, golfs, hunts, they can all kind of relate to that. Like, you get tips, you get like tricks from people, but nobody can like give you the ability to be a good hunter, a good golfer, a good skateboarder. Like all of that is how much sweat are you going to put into learning this craft, right? So I came to my parents, I think it was my sophomore year, and I told them I was going to drop out and move to California. And they were like, you are not dropping out. And I was like, well, what if I double up and I graduate a year early? Like, would you at least give me your blessing to head out to California? And like any parent, of course, that's way better than your kid dropping out. But school, like nobody had ever done that before. And I doubt my parents thought it was really going to happen. I remember going into my guidance counselor and being like, hey, I want to graduate early. What do I got to do? And they like laughed at me. They're like, you can't graduate early. We don't even know how we would make that work. Well, I ended up like doubling up in my what's the third year called?
Junior
year. Went to night school like 4 nights a week until 10 p.m. and I ended up graduating like top 20 or so in my class.
Wow.
Yeah. So 17, I move out to California, and that's where like the skateboard adventure began, and like really just pushing myself to like chase the dream. Like the chase to me is the most fun part. And skateboarding in LA took me to Philadelphia. Lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years, went on a trip to Barcelona, Spain. That was supposed to be for 90 days. That turned into 2 years. Went to California, back to California, lived in San Francisco for a couple of years. And then I got hurt. I was just getting picked up by some sponsors like BroFlow, like different companies were just hooking me up with free stuff. And when I got hurt, like all that kind of went away. And I didn't really know what to do. So I ended up moving to Denver, Colorado. And I call skateboarding like Never Never Land. We're Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, and nobody wants to grow up. So I got friends that are in their 40s. They're still hanging out with 18-year-olds, like partying all the time. I didn't want to go down that road. Like it was a crazy ride, like rock star lifestyle, going out. Like it was wild, dude. It was a wild time. So, can you hear my daughter right now? She's
just barely. No, you're good, man.
But it was an amazing experience. I got to hang out with like people I looked up to my entire life. We're only on the phone to go skate, like going to the X Games with buddies who own these companies that I've bought the boards for years. You know what I mean? But when that all came to a crashing halt, it was just kind of like, what do I do now? I relate that a lot. I would imagine you as a baseball player, you go to college, you play ball, you don't get drafted, and you're just like, what the heck do I do? And I remember I was trying to court this girl, and she was just like, no offense, but I'm not trying to be with like a loser skateboarder. Like I've already done that. And I was just like, dang, like that
cut deep.
That cut deep.
Yeah.
Lied to me and just been like, no, you're ugly.
Yeah.
But from there, I was like, well, I'm gonna turn my life around. I'm gonna get into sales. Got into sales, 6 years of sales, dude. Like building sales teams, running sales teams, doing the sales myself, wearing 3-piece suits to work every single day. And I had this kid on my team, Shay Talley, and he is my best friend. He's this like redneck from Greenup, Illinois, little town, dude. He'd always be like, hey, I'm taking a week off to go bow hunting up in the mountains. I'm going to hunt elk. You want to go? No. Then he moved in with me. Hey, I'm going up to the mountains. You want to come? No. Years, dude, probably 4 years of him asking me to go and me just being like, no, I don't want to go. Yeah. Then finally one day I was like, I want to buy a bow, dude. Like, let's go to Bass Pro. I'll buy a bow. Bought an off the shelf bear species, like didn't know anything. Went to the range, shot a couple times, and I was like, wow, like I suck at this. And it was that same feeling from skateboarding when I started skating where I was like, man, I suck at this and I don't want to suck at it. So I started going every day. The range that I went to was about 45 minutes up in Longmont, Colorado. It's like this little 3D course. And I would go there twice a day, at least once a day, until I finally went on my first elk hunt with my buddy. And when we got out there, I'm thinking, I'm watching the YouTube videos, screaming bulls. I'm like, we're going to get out there. It's going to be on. Like, these things are going to be screaming in our face. I'm going to shoot one. It's going to be sick. When we go out there, we saw a couple bulls on a ridge, like a mile away. And then at the very last day, we saw 2 cows came in, and we hunted for 9 days straight.
Okay.
These 2 cows come in, dude, and I got the wobbly knees. I literally dropped to my knees. I was like, I can't shoot. You shoot. Like complete panic mode. We get back, and I just remember sitting there so dejected, like, I suck.
Right.
And my buddy sucks at this. Like, how am I going to get better? Like, I was so happy in those mountains. Like, this is a completely new thing to me. And just like in skateboarding, I just dove in. Came home, told my girlfriend, like, hey, we can break up or you can come with me, but I'm moving to the mountains and I'm going to learn how to hunt elk with a bow. And I thought she was going to break up with me, and she was like, yep, let's do it. So within a few months, we moved to 9,000 feet elevation, town of 500 people, about 3 hours northwest of Denver. And I just did everything hunting. I was selling real estate at the time, and I had sold like a handful of houses. So I was sitting pretty good financially, and I could really just focus on like learning as much as possible. Started going into town. There was this Granby bait and tackle. Just this old man, dude, like 70 years old, the meanest dude in town. Nobody liked him or his wife who worked there. They didn't like anybody in town, but it was the only place to
shop. Yeah.
Dude, I would just go in there every single day trying to get them to like me. And finally I got his wife to like crack a smile. She brought me in the back, introduced me to him, and I would just ask him for tips. Like, I know nothing, so teach me everything. And I just became a sponge. The season came around, and I hunted every single day, dude, just going after these elk. And I wasn't in them. I was like never in them. And then finally, on I think it was 20th day, I let out a couple cow calls after these guys had gone by me on a quad on like not state forest, but like national forest. So I don't think I could even have it. A dirt biker comes ripping by me in the opposite direction. I'm like, this sucks, dude. Like, the four-wheelers got the mechanical advantage. The dirt biker's blowing out my whole spot. I let out a cow call, and I look over, and here's a 6x6 bull just staring at me with this brush in front of him. And I'm like, what? What do I do? I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm like, can I draw right now? Like, he's gonna see me. He's not even 20 yards from me. So I just came to full draw. He's staring at me, but I couldn't shoot through the brush. I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that would have sent it, but I watched this bull walk out of my life, and I was just like too green to know, like, okay, just let him calm down, go back after him. I just back to my truck. I was like, I'm done for the season. Next day I sleep in. It's probably noon. I'm like, don't care, just so dejected. My girlfriend comes home from her restaurant job, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm over it. Like, I'm done. I've hunted this 21 days straight of hunting, grinding, dude, grinding.
Yeah.
Miles was a short day.
Yeah.
She's like, we didn't move out here for you to like not kill a bull. So go out. So I hop in my truck. I don't care about nothing, dude. I'm letting the music rip, just driving up the mountain, like whatever. I'll show her. I'm not going to kill anything today. I'm going to go in 2 miles to that spot where I called in the bull yesterday. And I'm just going to sit over this little wallow that I know is there. I get about, I don't know, maybe half a mile from the truck. I'm doing little cow calls along the way, and I hear this like, like a little faint chuckle. And I'm like, wait, no way. Let out another cow call. I think this is a bull. So I run back up the hill. He's down in this drainage. I run back up the hill, and I let out like this little weak bugle. He rips one at me, like cuts me off. I drop back down, cow call. He's ripping back up at me, trying to get me to come down to him. I go back up the hill, like rip a bugle, and then drop back down to where I was calling from. There's this little clearing, and it's real steep downhill. I'm set up on the backside of this tree, and I remembered in this YouTube video, they were like, oh, rookie mistake. I set up on the wrong side of the tree. I'm like, oh, crap. Get in front of it. I'm like on the front of it, kind of like, up, not full draw, but just holding like this. And I hear crunching. And dude, I'm green. I don't even know that the crunching means an elk is coming in. I'm like, is that an elk? Like, what is that? And then all of a sudden, I see these little brow tines and then a bunch of antlers. And this bull is 6x6 bull. This one right here is standing 23 yards away from me in my only shooting lane that I range, perfectly broadside, and I'm at full draw. And when you watch like a hunting video and they're gonna shoot and you're waiting for it, like shoot,
like dude, shoot. Yeah.
I'm watching this YouTube video in my mind. I'm waiting for the hunter to shoot, and I like snapped out of it like I'm supposed to shoot. Ripped it. Bull takes off, dude. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened? And I'm like freaking out. I call my boy. I'm like, yo, Ben, I just shot a bull, I think. He was like, well, what was it? It got 4 on one side, right? And I'm like, going back in my brain, like now I know it was legal bull. I saw it so many times. Like, it's a legal bull. Dude, I blacked out in the moment. Like, when he's asking me that, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know if it was a bull. Maybe it was a cow. Like, I don't even know what I just shot. I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Did my mind put put some antlers on that thing? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't even know. So he's like, just sit tight. I'll come up and we'll track it and we'll find it. And I'm like, thank God, because I don't even know what to do at this point.
That's a whole different beast in itself. Like green to get in on an elk or any deer at first time hunting to shoot something, but then that's a whole other little lesson to learn of tracking and all that.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm still like, that's still something I try to like get better at every single time. Whether I'm filming somebody's recovery or it's my own recovery, I'm like, okay, what can I learn? So he comes up, my boy Ben comes up. We're looking. He's like, are you sure you hit it, dude? There's like no blood. And I shot this thing with like a Walmart broadhead with a mismatched arrow. Like I didn't know all of this stuff. Now, with my bear species bow. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I thought I hit it. It tore off. I heard it like crash down there, but it ran this way. I'm like, I don't know. Let's just keep looking for blood. And I'm standing in this little creek, like on the edge of this little drainage. And there's like a track, and I'm like, that kind of looks like a fresh track. And something in me was like, flip that leaf over. And I flipped this leaf over, and it was the littlest pinprick of blood. And I'm like,
blood.
Yeah, blood. I did hit it. Like that. Well, was it another animal's blood? Maybe? No, it's got to be the bull. Dude, all of a sudden, we cross this little creek, opens up. Good blood. Like, dead bull, let's go. Fanfare. 20 yards later, no blood. I'm like, highest of highs, lowest of low. We grid search, dude. We could not find nothing. It was littered with tracks in there. Couldn't find anything. And this is getting a little deep, but this is literally like where the drive for hunting came from. I hadn't prayed. I wouldn't even be able to tell you the last time I had prayed. I couldn't even tell you at the time what my actual beliefs were. And I just got on my knees, dude, and I said, God, please lead me to this bull. Like, I'm done trying to be in control of this situation. Lead me, bro. Please, God, just lead me. And I just start walking, dude. No rhyme or reason to where I'm walking. And I'm walking, and I'm walking, and I'm like dying inside, like moved my girl out to the mountains, my dogs. Like, we lived in this little tiny efficiency, dude, with 3 dogs and me and my girlfriend. It was literally a kitchen and a little tiny bedroom that our bed hardly fit in. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, I've lost this bull. As I'm standing there, like, just thinking I should just move to Denver, I look to my left, and bro, I'm telling you, that bull is piled up right there, dude. And I just dropped crying, dude. And I was like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I swear it. I believe it. Sorry, people at home, if you're not into the same belief systems, but like, I believe that I was led to that bull by something greater than myself. That was after that, I was like, I'm a hunter. That's what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. My grandma had given me these bonds, you know, like grandparents do when you're born in the 80s.
Yep.
She'd give me a bunch of bonds that I completely forgot about, and I had no money left. Like, we had nothing. I was trying to get a job, figuring it out. And I took that bond money and I bought my first camera. It was a Sony A6600 and like a kit lens. And I'm like, I'm going to learn how to use this thing. Started taking pictures, sent in like a little resume to a local newspaper. They're like, yeah, dude, we want to hire you. Like, sweet. To go take these photos. All right. I'm all jazzed. I'd taken the photos, feeling like a professional photographer. And they're like, okay, thanks. And I'm like, wait, that's it? They're like, yeah, we don't need you full time or anything. I was like, well, I can do other stuff. I was in sales. You guys got any sales? So I ended up learning about like paid ads and like e-commerce, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really think of at any of the time. Little did I know later in my life, this was going to play out to be a huge thing with Tethrd. And went on my first whitetail hunt. That lasted 15 minutes. I was tagged out on that deer there. And I was like, well, whitetail hunting's easy enough. It's fun. Like, I'm going to start putting more effort into that. So I would hunt in Colorado. And I'd hunt in Missouri. And just fell in love with it, dude. Like, I don't know, something, and I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast can relate. Like, you cannot explain why you hunt to people that don't hunt. They'll never get it. Like, all of us have come home and people are like, oh, did you catch one? Like, oh, I didn't catch one. Like my friends who don't hunt will be like, so did you see any today? I'm like, no, didn't see anything. They're like, did you see any yesterday? I'm like, no, I saw a doe like 200 yards away, but I had my bow. And they're like, so why do you go out there? And it's just, you can't explain it, man.
Nope. No.
So just continued on with all the photos and videos and like had my own little corny YouTube channel that I'd make. Like, it's pretty cringy now looking back at the videos and stuff, but it's also like, it captured that moment in my life.
Right.
Then fast forward, we had my son and it was, do I move back to New York? Do we move to Missouri where her family's from? But, we wanted to be around family. My parents were a little longer, are a little longer in the tooth than hers. So we were like, hey, let's go to New York. I had been gone for 20 years at that point and came here, bought a house, got linked up with this exterminator company and licensed exterminator. And then threw all that away to go on an internship with Tethrd that Greg literally told me, we don't hire our interns very often. Like, I don't want you coming into this thinking like you're going to come out of it with a job. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, like it's cool. I just want the experience and my foot in the door, maybe introduce me to some people. Meanwhile, really, I'm thinking like, there's absolutely no way you're not hiring me, Greg and Ernie. Like, there's no way. You have to. Like, I don't know what I'm going to have to do, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I explained earlier, they hit me up, offered me a position. I couldn't take that one, hit me up a month later, and it was like, let's go. So I started out as helping manage their outside sales team and then doing some content creation, and then had a couple, cool ideas. And Greg decided to bring me over to the creative team full time. Still no real definition to my job, just kind of like do everything you can, and took some of what I had learned into managing some of like the SEO and like the ads and helping out with Jared and Amanda, like wherever I could, what can I help you guys with? And it kind of just took off from there. He hit me up the other day, gave me this little promotion, and it's just like, dude, I remember this crazy. I was on a turkey hunt last year in Florida with Ernie and Greg and Greg's dad. And I had this this stress in my heart. Like it was like, and you don't have enough money to pay your bills for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
This stress that weighs on you. And I'm like, God, why am I stressing so hard? And I realized like, it was almost like, I don't want to call it PTSD, but it's the closest thing I could relate it to is just like laying in bed and being like, I don't have to worry about like my income anymore. Like, obviously there's always that worry, but it's not like it used to be. And like, I'm making a living doing what I love to do. Like how is that a thing, dude? It's just, it's wild. And then fast forward to this year, like in skateboarding, I busted my butt and I got to skate with like my idols. And then this year, like gone on some crazy hunts with Josh Ilderton from the Untamed, Eric Chesser from Hush, Ben Shed Crazy down at Monty, and dude, just wild, man. Blessed beyond. I can't even explain it. Sorry for the long story, everybody.
No, dude, no, that was phenomenal. I mean, I think it's important too, though, like for, even if you're not in like want to quote unquote break into the industry, right? Like not obviously there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that, have zero desire to do that. Right. But there's something to be said about like hard work and sacrifice and determination to go work for something that you want to do.
Yeah, dude. I feel like anybody can relate to that in the hunting world. Like whether it's a doe or the biggest buck you ever shot in your life, like it takes work. Yeah. It's like when my friends, like I said earlier, when my friends ask me, why do you do it? It's like, I love the grind, man. Like I love the suffering. I love freezing and questioning and having that emotional roller coaster of like, am I in the right spot? Why am I even out here right now? Like, and then you get that taste of success. And there's not a lot of things in life, dude. I've done a lot of stuff. There's not a ton of things in life that like allow you to feel that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. When especially don't get me wrong. I love hunting in general, and I'm not gun shaming by any means. It's just, there's a different connection with a bow to me. That's my personal opinion. But like, dude, there's just some type of connection with a bow in hand when there's some sort of success that it's just, it is. I can't put words into, I mean, I've hit home runs, I've had game-winning hits, I've had game-winning pitches, outs and throws, and like things that matter in a game of a team sport. And yeah, that's all, I've coached an undefeated football team, like, and all that type of stuff. But man, nothing compares to releasing an arrow, watching it go where it needs to go, and man, having that success and walking up to that animal and then bringing that animal home and doing what you need to do and cutting it up and doing all that type of stuff. There's just nothing compares.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, you think about it, like, I understand there's some guys who they sight in their bow a week before season, and I'm sure a lot of them have success.
Oh yeah.
I don't operate that way, and I feel like a lot of us don't, but it's like, it's a year's worth of effort, or at least 9 months worth of effort, right? Keeping up with your bow, making sure everything's in tune, building your arrows, shooting every day from different distances, trying to learn how to judge the distances better, learning how to get up a tree quieter, like all this effort. And then it all boils down to that one moment, dude.
Don't blow it.
Don't blow it. And when you blow it, it's the lowest of lows. But that makes the victory when you connect. It makes it that much better. It's the adversity, man. That's, to me, what it's all about. I think that's the sickest part of hunting, is the adversity that you have to overcome to be successful. And we all do. Doesn't matter who you are.
Well, here's something I want to ask you. So then, you've been involved in this since 2017 as far as hunting goes. You've, outside of that, I'm sure you've, like you said, you were trying to gain as much knowledge and everything and all that, whatnot. And then now the last couple of years, you've been part of it by being an intern, working for Tethrd, all that stuff. And right now, dude, what jazzes you up when it comes to hunting? Good, bad, the ugly, the beautiful, what jazzes you up? What's something that what gets Rob fired up?
Killing this bull was probably one of the most proud moments of my life. But I think even above that is introducing people who aren't from a hunting background, like myself, who never had that door open to them, introducing them to hunting. And some people, they stick with it. Some people don't. It doesn't matter. It's not for everybody. But my cousin Charlio, he very similar background in El Paso, Texas, no public land around him. Nobody in his family hunted. And I brought him some elk meat at Christmas. And a year later, he hit me up hey, will you teach me how to do this? That's and sick. He hit the ground running, dude, and completely changed his life too. So to be a part of introducing somebody to something that changes their life, I think is one of the best parts about hunting, the mentorship that you can get. And I'm not I've been hunting since 2017. I'm no pro by any means, but I have more knowledge than somebody who's never done it, and I can relate to people who are getting into it. So I think that's probably my favorite part, and it translates over to saddle hunting too. A lot of people have never saddle hunted, so when you introduce somebody to that's
my favorite.
Yeah, and then they're oh man, dude, this is sick, and then you're just you see this spark. I got homies who used to hunt a lot and then stopped hunting, but by bringing something new into the equation, it got them excited about it again, and now they're right back into it.
Yeah, that's how, dude. That's awesome, because honestly, that's what this past year. That's the one aspect that I've really, in years past, I always used to get really fired up when my friends would have success, but just something about it this year. I think because of where I am mentally in my personal life and what I have going on, it's been more positive and everything. It magnified, dude. Rob, I'm telling you, when you were just saying, when my close friends, guys that I text all the time, my dear friends, when they would go out, have success, and just the messages and all that stuff. And man, when Jared would send me those pictures and all the success stories that he had this year and everything like that, oh man, I gloated, man. I'd go and tell everybody I was my friend Jared killed this, look at this, you know what I mean? I was so pumped and so excited for that. My buddy Tom, I don't know, Jim, and just I don't know, I just loved seeing my friends have success this year. And like you said, it just really jazzed me up, and I was very, very happy for all of them. And I mentioned it on one of the podcasts earlier this year, from when this airs, but one of my buddies, I had him on the podcast in July, and his son was just getting into hunting, and he shoots with his dad every day. Dude, he's a phenomenal little shot. Like, it's crazy to see how good this little kid is and how much he loves hunting. And you could tell he was so bloodthirsty. And this year during rifle season in PA, he killed his first buck. And just seeing that, oh my gosh, like I could only imagine how proud like Jake was for his son. Because like I was proud just because you follow that journey of like seeing his posts and seeing how cool, like he's out in his 3D, and he's just letting it rip, shoots better than half the guys that I know. Like, it's just so cool to see that, man. And just to see his success and killing a buck and killing a doe, like it was so cool. And I could only imagine how proud of a dad he was, but also how jazzed up that kid was. And like seeing that, I love seeing that, man.
Oh, dude, I cannot wait. That's like, if you were to ask me that same question about like my favorite part of hunting 5 years from now, my boy will be in the woods with me at that point. And that is going to be what I love the most about it. Like, me and my dad had a super tight relationship growing up, but we didn't have that one thing that we like did all the time together. Like, there wasn't that family tradition of hunting. So to be like the person who's bringing that into my family and kind of changing that course. Now, if he doesn't want to hunt, I don't care. I got a dog. There's a 50-50 chance at least one of my kids will hunt,
Right.
Just bringing that into their life. I'm psyched. Like, I can't wait. And I want to get Caitlin, my girlfriend, I want to get her on a turkey hunt with me this year. I used to drag her in the Elkwoods before she was having our kids, and I would like to get her back into it. I'd be pretty pumped to see her smoke turkey this season.
You talked about the camera you bought, that 6600, all that type of stuff. But before we could go down more of a rabbit hole with the gear of that side of things, I think probably more so than hunting. Like obviously we're both homers. We, you're full time with Tethrd. I work for Tethrd in another smaller capacity. It's only the saddle hunting gear that I've ever used, and I hope to only use, number one. But then when you look at it, man, what is your favorite Tethrd product?
My favorite Tethrd product right now, it's going to sound so cheesy and people are probably going to make fun of me in the comments, but dude, the Scorpion grappling hook.
Yeah.
When Ernie first, I saw that a year ago when it was still in like the R&D stages. And I was like, dude, who's going to use that grappling hook? Like, are you kidding me? Well, it turns out I drop more things than probably anybody out of stand. And I use that thing several times every sit that I have. And I do a lot of sits. Yeah. Whether it's like hoisting all my camera gear up instead of climbing up with it, or lowering it down at the end of the night, or all the hats and just everything that I drop out of the tree, like how much I've used that. That's definitely going in my saddle kit. And then there's some stuff that is coming out in 2024 that will be my new favorite stuff. But I would say, if it wasn't the grappling hook, I mean, the Tethrd one sticks, dude, how can you beat them? I rock them 20 or 30-inch Hawk helium sticks for a couple seasons, and like they work. Do not get me wrong. I killed deer using them. They got me up the tree. I was safe getting up there. But to go from like something that heavy to the one sticks being that light, I was just like, okay, cutting weight does make a difference.
Yeah. It's so funny when we think about that, because I had those sticks, when they came out a couple of years ago and all that stuff, and I remember being like, man, this is awesome. You know what I mean? And then it's just, I mean, that's my favorite thing of working too, like our shows and having people like, hey, grab this sucker. You know what I mean? And they're like, whoa, you know what I mean? And and
they think it's empty. You're like, no, there's 4 sticks in there.
Yeah, but like I love too, like when they go and pick up like our Skeletors, because our Skeletors obviously, 4 sticks, 20-inch step to step, like all that, or all that type of stuff, and there's not another stick like that on the market coming in at a $225 dollar price range, and they're like, man, yeah, that's not bad. And you're like, it's a great stick, it's awesome. Grab this one. You know what I mean? It's the the one stick's right next to it, and you're like, they almost like hit themselves in the face with it because of how light they are. It's just such a cool thing. And like you said, man, it really does make a difference. And again, you could go out and walk around the woods and you could obviously you don't need to be up in a tree and kill a deer. Obviously it might be a little bit harder, but those certain luxuries, I'm with you on that, the one sticks. And I would say, for me, dude, I would say my favorite piece is simple. Again, kind of like the scrap, like the scorpion hook for you. It's the his strap. I mean, obviously, it's like an essential piece depending on how you're hunting. But man, I freaking love that piece of gear. And then as far as non-stick goes and non-his strap, I would say then it's the pack. Carl, the fast pack. I love it. I just absolutely love it. That's my favorite piece.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So now let's talk about quickly camera gear. What's your go-to camera arm? Like, what are you filming with? Are you using, heck, even do you have anything that separates from like when you're self-filming compared to you're going to go down and film Taylor Chamberlain? Like anything change?
No, not really. When I'm self-filming, I'm using the 4th Arrow camera arm with Tricer fluid head, which is actually for like glassing, but it's super light. I think it's like 6 ounces or something. Like it's nothing. It's super light. So I'll rock that. I got that satellite arm, the newer one. I had the older one that was a little bit heavier, and I love the base on that. But the new one is just like super lightweight. And for all the camera gear that I carry into the woods, even when I'm self-filming, it's just like, to save a little bit of weight's nice. I shoot on the Sony A7R4, this guy. Yep. And then I pretty much run this lens exclusively. It's a Tamron 28 to 75 millimeter, but I got a little wide angle lens over here. And then I got the Canon, 70 to 200. It's the G Master Sony lens. I use that more for photos just because of how good they come out. But, I hate for anybody at home listening to think like, oh, I got to get that gear or I got to save that gear. Like I tell everybody, I run all the social media stuff. So when people are writing into me and asking questions like on social media, it's me responding. And I get a lot of people like, well, what's the next best camera? And it's like, dude, the best camera, if you're not at the level of making professional videos, use your phone, man. Like have fun. They're like, well, do I need to get Adobe or do I need to get how do I learn how to edit? It's like, dude, if you got an Apple computer, use the software that comes with it. There's DaVinci Resolve. Like just get into it. Like anything if you can take a good photo on your phone, then you will be able to use this camera and take a good photo because it's all about framing and knowing when to capture the moment. So for my gear, like I'm blessed with the job that I have to be able to shoot on this stuff, but I'd be shooting on my phone or a cheaper version of all this stuff if I didn't,
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that's like been the one thing. It's funny because I for me, there's so many things too that I've learned over a little bit. And I mean, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. It's just mainly there's certain things that way my brain works. I'm like, oh, this would be a cool shot. You know what I mean? And there's so many things that I'm like, oh man, this would be a cool shot, but I have zero clue how to do it. Right. That seems like to be my biggest issue. But
that's the awesome thing about it. It's like,
try it.
You can tie it back to hunting. Like, I don't know how to do this. So I have the decision to screw it up until I figure it out, or I'm going to sit in the same tree and not see any deer. You know what I mean? You're ever in the tree and you're like, oh man, should I get down and switch? What if I spook something out? And it's like, well, then I spook something out. It's like, oh, well, I want to learn how to do this with my camera or take this kind of photo or edit it this way. And it's like, well, then just do it, and like fail forward. That's what I always tell people is like, don't be afraid to screw up. Because the more you screw up, the quicker you're going to learn how to do something the right way, whether it's hunting, shooting photos, skateboarding, whatever it is.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up, what's a take-home message for some of these young guys or people that are possibly looking to break into the industry or try something new that they, were looking to maybe do in the new year, or anything along those lines. It doesn't have to be industry of hunting, but just what's a take home message, man, to try to do something along those lines?
Dude, it's such a cliche thing, but my cousin's a musician. We're the same age. We're 38. He said something to me the other day. He's like, yeah, dude, like I'm chasing the dream of being a musician, or we were talking about that. He didn't say that verbatim. And I just had to tell him, he said something along the lines of like, you made it. Like, I want to do that. Or that's the impression I got. And I was like, David, the chase is the best part of everything. Like, yeah, crossing the finish line is dope. Don't get me wrong. I'm blessed. I owe the future of my life to Tethrd for bringing me into the fold, but like the chase of the dream is the best part. And so my advice to anybody would be like, just stay present in the moment and focus on getting better at whatever you're at. Like, don't focus so much on the destination, and like really try to enjoy the ride to get there, because the chances of people making it in the exact light that they want to, like say I'm a kid at home and I'm like, I want to be a YouTube star. Well, the chances of that happening are like slim and none. But one surefire thing that can happen is they can like create amazing relationships with their best friends they'll ever have, making videos, shooting photos. Like, don't judge the success on like, I made it in the industry. Like, just judge the success as like, I had a dope ass time, like learning how to film, learning how to shoot photos, learning how to find bucks, like whatever it is, just have fun and don't talk shit on other people who are doing the same thing. There's a lot of hate in our industry, and we could do without a lot of it, especially for these new dudes getting into hunting now, whether they're young kids or like myself, an adult onset hunter, or somebody who wants to be in the industry. Dude, I got hit up by somebody the other day asking for a sponsorship for him and his boy, and they never even made a video. And I thought that was cool, like a father and son doing their thing together. And then I read all the comments underneath. Shout out to you, Mr. Benfer. I read all the comments underneath, like making fun of this dude and his son for posting that on Facebook. And it's just like, really? Like, here's a dad who's got a boy who's really into hunting, and he just made like this silly comment about sponsorship. Like, you don't need to attack him. Like, we're all part of the same family. We're all hunters. Whether you are into watching YouTube videos, making them, or you're a purist who thinks that stuff's corny, like that's dope. But keep your negative opinions to yourself, everybody. Like, it's all love. That's my advice.
Yeah, like the one dude. I mean, I honestly don't let much bother me, just because I've learned to grow with that over the last couple of years. But the one video that that I made for you with the shooting a weak side shot, and on Facebook, some dude wrote, he's like, too bad he didn't choke and kill himself on it or something. And I was like, read it, I was like, damn, dude, that dude really, he's got some issues. Like,
people are funny, dude. I feel like sometimes I'm reading comments, which I know, like, oh, don't read the comments, but I like enjoy it. It's like eating popcorn and watching wreck. I just like laugh out loud that somebody took the time to like
say, I hope he dies.
Be negative about something. like really?
I just laugh. I'm just like, okay, bro. Like,
I'm gonna show him. I'm gonna tell him exactly how I feel.
I know. I'm with you, man. That's why, like I said, dude, that's why it's important to be in a good spot. It's why it's surround yourself with good people. And I appreciate you coming on, Rob, and sharing your story and showing that excitement, showing your passion, your drive. And man, it's important that kicking off the new year, doing all those types of things that people could hopefully relate and continue that drive. So, man, I appreciate you coming on, Rob. Like you said, obviously with Tethrd, you're the man behind the screen when it comes to if you're answering messages. But where else could people find you, follow along, and maybe like what's to come as far as the video side of things for Tethrd and all that type of stuff, if you're able to say?
So 2024 is going to be busy. We got a lot of plans for turkey season. We got show season coming up, and there's some pretty new stuff in the works that we're all really excited about over at Tethrd. We hope everybody else is too. As far as content, like check out our YouTube channel, all of our social. Obviously, turkey season is going to be insane this year. We have some pretty sweet things lined up for that. And then deer season, moving into that, we're going to be doing tons of collaborations with people that everybody at home, hope you guys love them as much as we do, but we're going to take a little bit different approach this year to the content, and hopefully everybody enjoys it. And the biggest thing is just get out there, guys, hunt, don't hate.
Yeah, I like that, dude. I appreciate it, man. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next week, everybody. Till then, Antler up.